2 is still borderline amazing, such that my review for it last year rounded out to about 8 minutes in length. I probably called Charli's hyper-stylized approach to electropop something like futuristic, which I've thought about a lot more over the months as to whether that's even true. It probably isn't, although I'd still use the term but more figuratively from a future universe. I wouldn't expect that Charli is predicting future trends in pop music more than she and her producer squad are pushing the current ones as far as they can go. Whether or not they stuck the landing on Pop 2, it was a daring project that was admirable in just about every aspect except Tommy Cash. Charli's self-titled album tries to find the middle ground compromise between her personal humanity and the volatile hypersynthetic aesthetic she's built for herself like a broken toaster oven. It results in some of the most admirable and clumsiest takes of her entire discography, which I simultaneously hate and admire. Charli's infatuation with auto-tune has opened up the gates for vocal and timbral experimentation with how her songs sound, as well as spin out of control, but they can also drown out the presence of a vocal guest, or make one of the tender, intimate moments sound a bit wormy, like how sometimes I feel a bit itchy, but it's under the skin, so I can't exactly scratch that irritation out, I just sort of have to deal with it. Sorry, this isn't a dermatologist appointment. Blame It On Your Love makes a baffling compromise in using that Major Lazer type vocal squealing on the chorus that you'd hear in EDM pop songs like Lean On. For something trying to be so vibrant, it ends up having the flavour of a used wine gum. My dilemma with Charli the album is that it's either going too far or not far enough, but whether it's either one of these is never consistent. The choppy, now notorious ending to Click is a brilliantly shocking way to end a song that wasn't very good in the first place, relying on metallic, clattering percussion to make it seem like this big, grandiose moment when every other piece of the song is running amok. Elsewhere, the rather thin and pasty atmosphere of Warm featuring the sorority Migos actually ends up being an unexpectedly comforting and cushiony sound to let you cool off for a minute. That lack of real dynamic or weight is something that should have been to the album's detriment but didn't end up being, which leaves me confused, because this is exactly the reason that I don't like the track Official, which sounds like the build up to the friendship themed climax of a teen schoolyard flick but with no real payoff in the end, a London bridge that never collapses. Not only that, the instrumental gets too excited and starts drowning the shit out of Charli herself. Like, calm down, it's meant to be a special moment. The absolutely banging percussive dynamics that make the chorus of Gone sound larger than life and escalates it to becoming one of the year's best pop songs, hands down, legs up, kidneys stolen.
What do we keep when the water runs? What do we love if we're so mistaken?
Are also the same distracting dynamics that make Cross You Out give me a headache. Everything on the song seems to bleed into one another every time the drums bang and the bass rumbles. Sounds like the construction workers outside my house at 6 AM jackhammering the concrete and ruining the lovely sound of the chirping birds above. No pun intended.
When you're not around, when you're not around, when you're not around, when you're not around.
Charli sings the opening track Next Level Charli like the euphoric theme for gaining enough XP to promote thyself to warrior class, which is a cool concept, except the majority of the melody is the same damn note sung at the top of her voice, so it just sounds like she's yelling at me.
I'll go hard, I'll go fast, and I'll never look back. I'll go speeding on the highway, run, but no crash.
The quote-unquote re-quote bold quote experimentation on this album is clumsy, and just when it was coming up to obnoxious levels, Charli the album decides to sack out, takes an illegal U-turn, shows us the song I Don't Wanna Know, and pulls the curse. I've talked about it before, but in case you don't know, it's this running trope in pop albums where every energetic and marginally fun pop album decides that it's somehow necessary to throw a slow ballad into the mix. It makes a drip of sense here because Charli the album is about personal things like insecurity and ennui, but those themes are well demonstrated on the tracks that actually have a fucking pulse. For example, Clairo and Yeji feature on February 2017, which sounds like the inner monologue of somebody who doesn't want the party to end, nor for everybody to leave. It's only ironic that after a brief pause near the end, Yeji introduces herself with a heartwarming epilogue in Korean to close out the song. A cute and meaningful moment that for some reason is slapped between two of the most ruthless and cold-hearted songs on the track listing. On the bright side, those two are gems. Shake It is a stunner of a posse cut. With a sleazy beat comes sleazy guest features, but the track seems to morph into its different vocalists like a multi-phase boss fight. Inviting Big Frida on a track like this deserves a Drake applause gif.
Oh, it's a migraine. Make them pupils dilate. Wanna watch it gyrate as it's on a tirade.
Meanwhile, Meanwhile, 2099 closes the album out on an uncertain note with what sounds like the most furious track of all, music for an apocalyptic dance party. The sparkly descending glissandos remind me of, yes, Shooting Star Summit from Paper Mario, except if it was falling apart on the verge of an earthquake. As far as experimenting with styles and sound design goes, this is my favourite case of it on the album. It sounds busy, but it's still held together by a bossy attitude and a sensual groove.
Pull up, roll up, fuck up, fast like a nice car, never touch us. Got visions, levels, they don't get me quiet, no discussions, please, hush.
I like ending reviews of albums that I'm rather indifferent about by discussing the bits that I did like. Not only does it remind me that there are actually a few things that I can take away, it also helps me momentarily forget that I didn't like a lot of the rest of it. I'm actually torn because the highs are as high as Charli herself on a Saturday night out, and the lows are as low as I assume she feels on the Sunday morning after. What helps to reassure me is remembering that I do admire Charli's ambition above all. Somebody who isn't afraid to make noise and work with A.G. Cook, even if it pisses a lot of listeners off. It doesn't guarantee quality, but it'll make me feel like less of a liar when I'm plastered at a party and go off at people about how much I admire what she stands for.
That light's really bright, but Charli XCX is honestly one of the greatest, most forward-thinking artists of our generation.
I'm supposed to be honest though, so Charli the album is a bit of a stumble. Oh, I've never been so upset about a 5 out of 10. I'm sure you feel the same, but in fairness, it's good practice for my upcoming video for JPEG Mafia.